Everyone in that house knew one thing for sure. Donald Rogers drank too much. He drank in the mornings. He drank through the afternoons. And most nights he drank until he passed out cold. Motionless, unresponsive, barely aware of the world around him. So when he was found dead in his own bed, authorities didn't panic. They didn't suspect a crime. They didn't ask many questions. Because men like Donald died this way all the time. But what no one saw, not the police, not the doctors, not the people who signed the paperwork, was the deal that had already been made. A deal between desperation and desire, between addiction and money, between two women who believed one death could solve everything, and one of them would end up paying for it alone. Part 1. The Woman Who Needed Money. Vonlee Nicole Titlow wanted one thing more than anything else in the world, to finally become who she believed she was meant to be. Born male, Titlow identified as a woman and struggled deeply with gender dysphoria. For years, she lived with the constant weight of feeling trapped inside a body that didn't reflect her identity. She dreamed of gender confirmation surgery, not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Something she believed would finally give her peace. But dreams cost money, and Titlow didn't have it. She drifted between unstable jobs and unstable relationships, often relying on men for financial support. Sugar dating became a way to survive, sometimes emotionally, sometimes materially, but it was never enough. The surgery she wanted required tens of thousands of dollars, and every path forward seemed blocked. That's when Billie Jean Rogers re-entered her life. Billie was Titlow's aunt, loud, impulsive, and restless. She lived a life that looked comfortable from the outside, a large home, a wealthy husband, no obvious worries. But beneath the surface, Billie was unraveling. When Billie suggested Titlow come stay with her and her husband, Donald Rogers, it sounded like a lifeline, a fresh start, a safe place, family. Titlow accepted. But when she arrived, the reality inside that house was nothing like she expected. Donald Rogers was almost always drunk, not just a heavy drinker, an alcoholic in the truest sense. He drank until he collapsed, until he slept for hours, sometimes entire days. His body was present, but his mind rarely was. He stumbled through the house, passed out on furniture, on the floor, on the bed. And Billie was his caretaker. She managed the house, the money, the schedules. She cleaned up after him, watched over him, made sure he didn't hurt himself. But when Donald drank himself into unconsciousness, Billie was left alone, lonely, bored, restless. So she gambled. Casinos became her escape. Slot machines, tables, endless nights chasing losses. Gambling made her feel alive. It gave her purpose when her husband was passed out and unreachable. But it also drained money. Large amounts of it. Soon gambling wasn't just entertainment. It was a problem. Billie began asking Donald for money. He refused. Donald knew gambling was destroying her. He was an alcoholic himself, but he recognized her addiction for what it was. And unlike alcohol, he could control access to money. That refusal changed everything. To Billie, Donald wasn't just a husband anymore. He was an obstacle. And once that idea settled in her mind, she began thinking of solutions that didn't involve patience or help or leaving. She began thinking about inheritance, and she knew exactly who might be desperate enough to. Part 2. The Plan and the Night It Happened. Billie didn't present the idea as murder. She presented it as opportunity. Donald was wealthy. If he died, she would inherit everything. The house, the money, the freedom. No more asking. No more being controlled. No more limits on gambling. And Titlow? Titlow would finally get her surgery. Billie promised her $100,000, enough to change her life forever. At first, Titlow hesitated. Not because she didn't want the money, but because killing someone was still killing someone. But Billie normalized it. Donald was already killing himself with alcohol. The doctors would never question it. It would look natural. They didn't plan violence. They planned invisibility. One night, after returning from gambling, they found Donald asleep, or more accurately, unconscious from drinking. His body was limp, his breathing slow. To Billie, this looked like the perfect moment. They brought more alcohol. The idea was simple: force more down his throat and let alcohol poisoning finish the job. But Donald couldn't swallow. He gagged, choked. His body resisted even in its weakened state. The plan wasn't working. Time passed. Panic crept in. That's when Billie made a decision. She grabbed a pillow. There was no struggle, No dramatic fight. Donald was too intoxicated to resist. Billie pressed the pillow down over his face, suffocating him until his breathing stopped completely. Titlow watched. She didn't stop it. When it was over, the room looked normal. No blood, no signs of violence, just a man who drank himself to death. When police arrived, that's exactly what they saw. Alcohol poisoning. Case closed. Billie inherited everything. True to her word, she paid Titlow the money, and for a moment, it seemed like they had gotten away with it. Part 3. The Confession and the Woman Left Behind. Freedom didn't feel the way Titlow thought it would. Yes, she had money. Yes, she could finally imagine surgery, but the secret followed her everywhere. She continued dating men, living fast, numbing herself. One night, overwhelmed by guilt or fear or the need to be seen, she confessed. She told a man she was seeing the truth. At first, he didn't believe her. Then she told it again and again. He became disturbed, afraid. He went to the police, but without evidence, there was nothing they could do. So they wired him. When he met Titlow again, she confirmed everything. The plan, the pillow, the money. This time, police were listening. Titlow was arrested. Billie Jean Rogers was questioned soon after. And here's where the story takes its final, cruel turn. Prosecutors offered Titlow a deal. Testify against Billie, the woman who planned it all, and receive a reduced sentence. Titlow refused. She would not betray her aunt. Whether out of loyalty, fear, or misplaced love, she chose to take the fall. In 2002, Titlow was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 20 to 40 years in prison. Billie Jean Rogers? She walked free. No prison, no conviction, no punishment. The woman who smothered her husband lived on with his money, and the woman who needed the money most lost her freedom instead. This case forces an uncomfortable question. Was justice served? A desperate woman paid with decades of her life. A manipulative woman kept her inheritance, and a man whose death was planned was written off as another drunk who drank too much. No heroes, no clean endings, just choices, and consequences unevenly distributed. Because sometimes in true crime, the scariest part isn't the murder, it's who gets away with it.